DFS picks, lineup advice, strategy, live Q&A, FanDuel, DraftKings, Yahoo, Tuesday, May 3rd. Season's flying by. I can't believe it's May already. We've already somehow suffered through an entire month of baseball DFS. We only got a couple more months of every single day grinding. We're here to help you out. Welcome. I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy. I'm joined by our MLB manager, our USFL writer, already doing dynasty rankings for NFL in our staff chat. Chris, what's up, man?
I was getting tired of reading my NFL thoughts every single day already. It's going to be a long summer for sure. Fun slate tonight, Brian. 10 games now. We had some postponements. I think the Tigers game is off the board. But really, as always with these big slates, we want to look at what's going to be super popular. What does our model think is in a good spot that isn't going to be super popular? And how can we leverage that, right? So I think there's some really good opportunities tonight.
Absolutely. And I see Matthew in the chat. Good evening, gentlemen. Matthew, what's up? Appreciate it. You guys are watching this and you have questions at any time, go ahead and throw it in the chat. Chris and I will be here until about 6 p.m. Eastern. Any questions you have, let us know. We'll go through some of the top plays, some lineup strategies, maybe some fun bets along the way. So let us know if you have questions or want to see a different direction for the show. Before we get started, Chris, I got to say, filed under things you hate to see. Orioles are just a one-game lead on the Red Sox for the worst record in the American League East.
Yeah, and it's not been a good start to the year for my boys, but this is a great segue to set up what we want to talk about tonight. My, you know, favorite team underperforming, continuing for at least one more night. I do think it's actually a good night to consider the Angels, and I do think our model agrees, right?
Yeah, so I'm pulling up the stack dashboard here now, which if you're not familiar, is on occupyfantasy.com using our proprietary metric. It ranks every stack on the slate by our OF index, by isolated power projections, weighted on base, and also shows some betting market data as well as projected ownership. And we see here Angels slide in here as the number 2 rated team on tonight's slate. But Chris, very interesting. We always get these slates every single year, pretty often. The Coors Field slates, for those who don't know, baseball in Colorado, the weather, the altitude pumps up the offense out there. And as a result, we see elevated totals in the betting markets
Mm-hmm.
and as correlated result there, elevated ownership on those stacks. And as you see, Colorado and Washington actually rank 1 and 3 in our stack dashboard. The 2 highest projected ownership stacks, LA is sandwiched in between those 2 teams. But I think, Chris, as we've been talking about all season, all the research that we've shown shows that despite no matter how well they rank in our model, it's tough to play these chalky stacks in tournaments.
We got 20 teams on the board tonight, and 2 of them are going to be carrying, the vast majority of the roster rate in any contest that you're going to play. So just from a pure leverage standpoint, it does seem to make sense to, at maximum, use those teams as only one-offs or secondary stacks tonight, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I was running our lineup builder a little bit before the show just to see what's possible. I was getting a ton of Washington and Colorado secondary stacks, which is no surprise if you limit them to not having them as 5-man stacks in your lineups. And I will say, Chris, and I think it was someone in our Discord server, if I'm not mistaken, the other day said, just because there are chalky stacks, there are ways to play those chalky stacks that aren't being played by the field, namely playing bottom of the order hitters, right? And some of the stacks I was looking at in that the builder popped out were some, 6-8 bottom of the order, 7-9, 5-7-9 types of stacks, which again, we know that the top of the order is going to get all the ownership, but if we just drop to the bottom a little bit, those guys are going to get their at-bats too in a great hitting environment.
For sure. Looking actually at the Rockies tonight, since we're on the subject, we have a confirmed lineup in, and one of our favorite hitters in the lineup is outfielder Sam Hilliard, hitting 8th in the batting order tonight. We've got him, this is probably a little low, but we've got him at 1% on DraftKings, 3% on FanDuel. So that right there, that jumps out as an opportunity of somebody to use on a popular team that may not be rostered as much as his teammates. Jumping down a little bit, it looks like the catcher, Elias Diaz, just 8% on DraftKings, potentially 3% on FanDuel. So I do think there are ways to play Colorado tonight, but I'm very confident I won't be primary stacking them here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And again, if you just look at especially Brendan Rodgers and Jose Iglesias, who are the worst ranked Colorado hitters, they are second baseman and shortstop respectively, and those positions are generally pretty tough to fill. It seems especially so this year. I don't know if it's just me, Chris, but it feels like trying to fill in some second baseman and shortstop some of these days have been really difficult. And these guys, despite just having a 4.5 OF index and a 4.4 OF index, that's pretty high compared to most second basemen and shortstops on the slate. So while they may rank low for Colorado in the context of the full slate, they actually rank pretty well. And despite the fact that they hit at the bottom of the order, they can be great secondary stacks.
Definitely. Now, I think pitching is really interesting tonight. There's a lot of options when you have 20 teams going. And I'm a little surprised with how we're projecting the way that this is going to pan out. Not necessarily by the most popular play. I certainly understand Brandon Woodruff being the top arm facing the Cincinnati Reds, one of the worst teams in baseball right now. But a little surprised that the market doesn't really seem to want to know where to go after that. It's pretty close between four guys. It looks like Julio Urias with the Dodgers, Michael Kopech here with the White Sox, Joe Ryan with the Twins, and Rodon with the San Francisco Giants. Now, I know our model is telling us what to do here, but I was curious if you've been kind of developing any strategies or thoughts on how to attack this tonight.
Well, we know the model has a clear bias for Urias, against Urias, for whatever reason, right? Every single slate you message me, he's like, yo, Urias should be a little bit higher in the model, and he just cannot get above the 15 mark in OF index. So, yeah, I understand that. But to me, I guess my question to you is, you've been following a little more closely than I have. You've been writing the plugs every single day. Michael Kopech has been ranked pretty well on every slate that he's been on. He tops the model tonight, 17.9 OF index, 1.29 Ks per innings pitch projection. Hasn't pitched more than 5 innings in a game this year, but at his price, 9,300, is there enough wiggle room if something happens and maybe he walks a couple guys or gives up a run or two, that his workload's safe enough that we can confidently put him into our lineups?
I think so. I've been looking at the team hitting stats. I try to look at a trailing 30-day performance for teams, and so we're not quite there yet with the start of the season. We're still within the first 30 days, but the Cubs, if you've been playing DFS every day, started the season very hot as a lineup, and they've cooled off a little bit, and they've started striking out a lot more. They were one of the hardest teams to strike out at the beginning of the year, but now they're right on the average, striking out about 23% of the time overall against any type of pitcher. So I definitely think Kopech can mow these guys down tonight. The other thing, looking at his performance specifically, that's encouraging. He has had a couple of starts where he's only achieved 3 strikeouts, but he's keeping runs off the board. He has just a 2.7 FIP right now, fielder independent pitching, a little higher than his ERA, but it's well under 3, so which means he's a very above average pitcher. So if we get a very efficient outing from him, where he's just getting out of the innings quickly and maybe striking out 1 to 2 guys per inning, he could easily be one of the optimal pitchers tonight.
Yeah, for sure. You look at his game logs, just 3 Ks in his last outing, but did strike out 7 at Minnesota. So be on the lookout for his strikeout prop. We do like, I mean, he's getting a lot of swing and misses. So keep an eye on his K prop if you're into that. Remember, we do have the promo with Prize Picks you see up here. I don't know if I'm pointing the right way on screen, but deposit bonus of 100% match. Use code OCCUPY to get that bonus, and start betting some prop parlays over there using our model. Really profitable endeavor there. And the other thing that we always look at from a pitching standpoint is, especially on DraftKings, is there any cheap pitcher that we can use to help pay up for some of these expensive stacks? It seems like the last couple of days there haven't been that many. And Chris, I'm looking here. The best ranked pitcher under 8K is Christian Javier for the Astros. Yarbrough is 5,600, always in between that long reliever, starter, bulk reliever role. And then we have, and that's really it, right? So what are your thoughts on those two guys? Can we drop down to them? Do we need to drop down to them on a slate like tonight?
I'm looking closely at Christian Javier here against the Mariners. I do think there's a chance he can do pretty well for us. Got up to 84 pitches in his last outing against the Rangers through 5 innings. He's another one that's keeping runs off the board. His fielder independent pitching is well under 3 as well, just like Kopech. So at his price, that looks like a pretty interesting opportunity. The big giant red flag with him in our model, if you look over at the StatCast data, he's giving up a ton of far batted ball distance. So that's kind of scary. It definitely seems like it's possible that he could give up some home runs in this spot. He hasn't really been giving them up this year to date, but he has been giving up far contact. So that means he's probably due to regress a little bit.
And weather against them tonight, it's the only negative pitching boost. Oh, no, there's a couple of negative pitching boosts. Obviously, Coors Field as well, but minus 6% boost for pitchers. I guess you can't really call it a boost if it's negative, right? But a minus 6% decrease for Javier. So I can see that. But again, it's tough, and the field doesn't really necessarily know what to do with that either, like you said, because Javier just 10% projected. Yarbrough, if people do decide to go that route, is just 11% projected, and no one else above 10%. Hell, no one else even above 5%. That's a cheaper option. So it looks like, yes, I guess a lot of people will be playing these 8 to 10K pitchers, Coors in Washington, the Coors field, Chicago. Let's try this again. Colorado and Washington stacks. So we know what the field's going to do. That's the key thing. Now we just have to go elsewhere. So if we're not stacking those teams, Chris, I know you talked about the Angels already. Any other lower owned stacks that you're eyeing as a 5 or 4 man stack?
About fully stacking, but one of the things that as you know, I kind of study our correlations with the model rankings and results every night, and I'm kind of looking at the trends, big picture, and going to be updating our plug for that really soon here. The data we have in there is from last season, but what we found this year, pretty much that our performance is right in line with last year. That's why we haven't rushed to make the update. Long way of getting to the point that I do think weighted on base average is one of the best ways to look at some of the under the radar stacks that we like tonight. So a couple options that look like they may be worth investigating further: the Twins and the Rays. Now, I've been looking a lot more at the Twins personally because they actually have a minimum price hitter at third base tonight that's jumping off the page to me, and that's Jose Miranda. It's just $2,000, the minimum price on both DraftKings and FanDuel. And I do think that's a pretty nice opportunity to maybe slot into your lineups in one of these harder positions to fill when you're trying to put some stacks together.
Yeah, and he ranks pretty well too, right? 5.1 OF index, the third ranked twin for us. So a lot of times we'll get these min price guys, right? And they'll they'll be ranked super low, no projected isolated power. But Miranda does rank pretty well. He was called up. I can't remember when he was called up, but he made his first start yesterday. Was still 2K there. Obviously, his price hasn't changed. So I definitely think that's a way to save some salary for sure. We do have his projected ownership at 11%. Nothing too outrageous there. So yeah, Minnesota, Tampa Bay was the one you mentioned too that sticks out to me as well. Team total move in their favor. Middle of the pack team total at 3.86, but they do have the top ranked weighted on base projection for the slate. So that's certainly attractive as well. RM is in the chat and says Kansas City. Let me see here. Kansas City. Chris, I don't know if there's any metrics that that point towards Kansas City as a great stack. They're outside the top 20 in all of our rankings. I don't know. Any thoughts on Kansas City?
I, if I wanted to make a case for them, you could say we have the reverse line movement in their favor.
Right.
One of the other things we look at is the opposing pitcher ranking fairly low in our model. He's more middle of the pack, but Dakota Hudson isn't like a pitcher that we should be afraid of. So, to be honest, I don't think the Kansas City Royals are a team I'm going to be looking at tonight. But anything is permissible in high risk contests. So if that's a spot you like tonight, certainly go for it. Nothing wrong with that.
Speaking of that, if you're going with that tactic, right, where you're targeting pitchers in the model, a quick note: Chicago. What was it, Chris? It was Underdog that had the special prop today where Drew Smiley over under half a pitch
Yeah.
just to give someone a free leg of the parlay. Naturally, he was scratched, will not pitch tonight. Scott Efros, potentially mispronounced that name, but he's just an opener. I think it's
Yeah.
just a bullpen type game, maybe an inning, maybe 2 innings from him, which is why he ranks so lowly in the model. Not to say you can't stack Chicago White Sox, always a good idea in a bullpen game, but it's not because Efros is so poor. It's just because we don't project him to pitch that long.
Yeah, we had originally ranked the White Sox super high, so you know how this goes. Now that we don't rank them as highly as an offense, they will absolutely be the best offense to use tonight. That's just the way that baseball goes for us some nights. Speaking of targeting pitchers, though, and not to drive home that I guess both of our favorite teams are not doing so well this year, but I do like the Twins against Bruce Zimmerman of the Orioles. Ranks pretty low in the model. He gives up elite ISO to hitters from either side of the plate, I believe. So not only do we have a minimum price hitter we can build around near the top of the Minnesota team rankings, it's actually a really good matchup as well.
Yeah, and if you look at if you look at the Statcast data, which again we always get questions about this, this is the ranking based on opposing exit velocity, opposing batted ball distance from Statcast to MLB metrics, and lower is better for hitters, higher is better for pitchers. And if you look on tonight's slate, because Yarbrough doesn't qualify, doesn't have enough balls in play for Statcast data, Bruce Zimmerman has the third worst exit velocity allowed on the entire slate over the last couple of weeks, so last 2 or 3 starts. So just another reason For those who rank ahead of him or worse than him, it's Michael Waka of maybe this is why Baltimore and Boston's in the cellar here, Chris. Waka ranks second to last, Zimmerman third to last, and then if you're trying to fade Coors Field, this is not a great indictment, but German Marquez, the worst exit velocity allowed, not a great recipe to be pitching when you allow hard contact in Coors Field.
Right.
So, all right, 5:45. We'll be here for about 5, maybe 10 more minutes. If you guys have questions, throw them in the live chat, and we'll certainly answer them. Any questions about high-level strategy, picks for tonight? Chris, is the plug out yet for the site?
Troy was actually working on that last I checked. So let's double check. Yeah, it does look like we're up tonight. It has been updated, so you can certainly head over to the plug page on the website. All the information for tonight, the way we see the slate, Troy wrote up the pitching tonight, is there for you. So a nice plan of attack for any contest type that you're trying to play tonight.
For sure. And Chris, give me the rundown on Joe Ryan, by the way. I know he's ranked really well whenever he's gotten the start this year. And 9,500, prices increased a bit, has a good K potential. We like him tonight. But what's his background and what's the context around Joe Ryan, the pitcher?
Joe Ryan was acquired by the Twins last summer from the Rays when they traded Nelson Cruz away. Twins season was not going anywhere. The Rays were trying to make a run in the playoffs. It does look like, big picture, that the Twins got the better side of that deal because Ryan has now made his major league debut, and he has 3 consecutive quality starts here in his last 3 starts, obviously, for the Twins against Boston, Kansas City, and Detroit. Has a pretty... hold on, I'm just looking at something else. Pretty good matchup here, obviously, against the Orioles tonight. He's been a pretty high strikeout pitcher in his last few matchups, so I really don't see any. The only reason that I can come up with to not play Joe Ryan is just simply because you're playing something else that's maybe like a little bit more affordable, like Kopech or Woodruff tonight. Looking at the DraftKings side of things anyway. I'm having a hard time just based on his matchup alone coming up with a reason to not play Joe Ryan. He's in a really good spot.
Yeah, I don't see how the field's not going to play him heavily. Again, maybe they can't get up to him, right? But 26, 25, 36 DraftKings points his last 3 starts. That's something the field is going to be attracted by. And all of his underlying metrics show that those are not fluky performances, that he should continue to pitch like that. And what a great trade for the Twins to get Joe Ryan, because he looks like a stud. So, all right, 5:48, couple more minutes here. Nick's in the chat says Astros and Brewers for him, with the top pitcher in the model, Kopech. Let's look at the Astros and Brewers really quickly in the stack dashboard. And let's see here. So Houston ranks 4th for us. 1, 2, 3, 4. Milwaukee is the 8th ranked stack.
Mm-hmm.
Houston, number 2 team total. Milwaukee, number 5 team total. And surprisingly, neither team, I imagine because most of the ownership, like we said, is in Coors Field. Despite having high team totals, Houston above 5, Milwaukee 4.5. Pretty low cumulative ownership, just 44% for Houston. 41% on FanDuel. Milwaukee, 27% on FanDuel. So, Chris, really good low-owned stacks there. Top 8 in the model. Top 5 in the betting markets. As we've talked about before, if you're not targeting low-ranking pitchers in our model, the other metric that correlates so well with fantasy performance, surprise, team total, Vegas performance. And when we get a high team total, high OF index, high WOBA, and they're low-owned, it's hard to get a much better trifecta there.
Yeah, I like the call, first and foremost. The one thing with Milwaukee that is, just jumping out to me as a little bit of a red flag is that team total decrease. I think I mentioned to you in our chat this morning that there was a weird line movement, very, very large line movement away from the Brewers in betting markets. So I'm still not entirely sure what that was. Pretty sure the only news that came out was actually on the red side that Joey Votto can't play tonight. So I really don't understand why everyone's back in the Reds here. That's certainly one way to go about it, playing a couple of teams that betting markets think are in strong spots tonight, but that DFS players aren't necessarily prioritizing. I like that strategy a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And other teams that may fit that mold are the Angels. They're a little bit higher projected owned. The Twins we talked about, the Blue Jays, and any other team. Those are the other teams in the top 10 of team total rankings. So, all right, it's 5:50. No more questions in the chat. We'll let you get out of here, finish building your lineups. Any further questions you have, go ahead and throw them in our Discord server. Join, chat it up with other members of OctagonFantasy.com. ask staff questions whenever you want. Chris especially loves answering questions right before lock, like we all do. So occupyfantasy.com/discord. Click the join button below this video. Remember the Prize Picks promo. Use code Occupy to sign up. The link is also in the description. Tons of great, fun prop parlays over there, and super profitable, especially if you combine in some UFC lines, which we've talked about in our Friday videos. And if you like what we do here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, get notified when we go live. Give us a thumbs up if you'd like to see more MLB content throughout the summer. Chris, any final thoughts for tonight?
Yeah, why don't we have some fun here? I know we gave you a Michael Kopech prop in the plug today. Free one on the show here if you want to be a little degenerate like us. Why don't we go with Jose Miranda, the min price hitter that I said I like tonight? He's got a projected 201 ISO against Bruce Zimmerman, which means that I think he has a pretty good chance to hit a home run tonight. You can get that plus 590 at FanDuel Sportsbook last I looked using our prop finder tool on OccupyFantasy.com. That's a really, really nice, outrageous prop you can bet to get people looking at your account.
I swear, dude. So, obviously betting's not legal in Maryland yet. I'm counting down the days. I'm checking every single day. But obviously used to be big into the sports betting scene, 8-10 years ago. And you could not find props this widely available for so many obscure players, right? I'm sure baseball enthusiasts know Jose Miranda. We know Jose Miranda as the min price player on tonight's slate. But for him to have all these props available is just a gold mine. And there's no reason for anyone out there who's interested in sports betting not to have a huge edge with so many. The sportsbook can't keep track of this many props, right? There's a huge edge in some of these bets. And definitely have fun with some of the big money ones that use the model. Like in this instance with Jose Miranda, plus 590 to hit a home run. I'll be sweating that with you. And hopefully those of you out there will play him in your lineups and can also sweat with us in Discord. So I like that call, Chris. Really good call. Again, the Aki Prop Radar link's also in the description if you want to check it out. Legal sports betting state, compare lines across all of our partnered sportsbooks. So for Chris, follow him on Twitter at RooneyFFB. Follow me at BrianJesterFF. Follow us at Occupy Fantasy. Appreciate everyone listening and good luck tonight.